All right, everybody. So welcome. Thank you for taking some time to be with us today. Of course, as always, I know your time is valuable, and sometimes for a lot of us right now, even more valuable because you may be short-staffed or running like a crazy person with your chicken with your head cut off, like we all are a little bit, but quite all right. You made the time to be here, and I appreciate that very much. So welcome to the October version of the Sebring Chamber of Commerce Luncheon. This is our virtual event, so thank you for that, and hopefully I'll give you a little more information about what our game plan is for future events in just a moment. I'd like to thank our year-round sponsors. We have our 2020 Chairman Circle sponsors. We have AdventHealth Sebring, which is also our sponsor for today, L&J Automotive Network, Chen Dental, CLA, Dental Care of Mid-Florida, Haycock Insurance Group, Highlands News Sun, Highlands Regional Medical Center, Mid-Florida Credit Union, Sebring International Raceway, and Sun and Lake Golf Club. We also have our President's Club sponsors, which are Bullgator Plumbing, Center State Bank, Duke Energy, Eastone USA, First Southern Bank, Glades Electric Co-op, and Seminole Casino Brighton. So hopefully some of you were able to go ahead and grab some food, maybe from your favorite chamber member restaurant, and do some delivery, things like that. So if you did, as a result, we are lucky to have Reverend Ron DeGennaro from St. John United Methodist Church. He is here to go ahead and lead us in our invocation. In case you are eating, he'll bless our food.
Thank you, Liz. Gracious God, we thank you and we praise you for the opportunity to gather this day. We are business people and leaders in our community, and we pray you would be with us in everything that is said and everything that is done. We do pray a blessing on the food and that we would be strengthened to do your work and your will. We pray, O Lord, for our community. We pray for those of our community who want everything to return to normal. And we pray for those who are fearful. For we are in that mix as well, all of us. But you have promised never to leave us nor to forsake us. And you are with us in the midst of this. We as a community have survived much violence, violent storms, catastrophes of all kinds of situations. And you have been faithful. Let us be faithful to our fellow citizens, for we pray this in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. All right. So a couple of housekeeping items. As I always like to mention, please make sure that you've got yourself muted unless you are speaking. I set it up this time, so specifically it will switch over to the speaker, so that way we can see the speaker speaking and it'll bounce out. So if you're not muted, it might bump over and show your face as the main face on the screen. So just a heads up, make sure you do that. It'll also keep background noise away. That way, if you are have nosy coworkers or maybe even the dog barking at home. So, all right, a couple of introductions real quick. I'd like to thank our sponsor as always. We have AdventHealth Sebring that is our sponsor and speaker and presenter today. We'll hear from them in just a little bit. We have a couple of dignitaries as well. We have Maritza Ayala and Shannon Sapp from our board of directors that are here. And we have Marty Milkey, who is this, from the CFO Jimmy Petronas office from the state of Florida. She's here as well. We also have 4 brand new members. And if you are a representative of one of those members, we would love to hear more from you in just a little bit during the announcement section of the event. All you'd need to do is just type a little note in the chat section. I'll explain that more, but we'd like to hear from you and get an introduction from you to know who you are. Those 4 members are St. Vincent de Paul Cares, Tim Wirt over at Comcast Business, Angela Jimenez Flores, and Pack and Ship and More Incorporated, which is a brand new pack and ship over in the plaza where the chamber's at. So normally I would pass it over to Sergeant Kimberly Gunn from the Sheriff's Office today. She was not able to join us. I assume she gets a pass every once in a while for not being able to give us the Sheriff's Office update for the businesses. But she did ask me to pass on some information about local trick-or-treating since it is that month and that time of the year. They have approved on the countywide level and on the city level, or on the community level for Sun and Lake, trick-or-treating on the 31st from 6 to 9. She also mentioned that, of course, for those who are concerned or maybe are not as comfortable with kids coming for trick-or-treating, of course, you have the opportunity to just kind of turn your porch light off and maybe we'll kind of pass by. But for anyone who is, of course, try your best for social distancing, but that might be a challenge. Of course, you can always wear a mask. That's the good thing about, trick-or-treating. You do have that option. Just make yours snazzy, I suppose. Of course, watch out for traffic as well. There are a ton of different trunk or treat events as well. The mall is hosting one. Aaron's Carts, that's a member, is also hosting one. There's lots of churches that are doing events as well. So just check out our Facebook page or our community events section if you'd like to go ahead and learn more about those events coming up. And I'm very excited today as well. We are moving back into the school year. So we have a student of the month to recognize once again. So do we have Jordan Sinnis? Is she with us today?
Yes, ma'am. I'm right here.
All right, Jordan, wonderful. So I'm going to brag on you just a little bit. Sorry about that. I could have warned you, but we do have a little bragging. And then we're going to give a couple gifts away to you, and we'll tell you all about that just a moment, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So Jordan Sinnis was born and raised in Sebring, Florida, and she's now a senior at Sebring High School. She's taken international baccalaureate, advanced placement, and dual enrollment courses throughout middle and high school. While taking these courses, she's maintained all A's with a GPA of about 4.5 and is ranked in the top 5% of her class. As a student of Sebring High School, she's a member of the National Honor Society, Mu Alpha Theta, student government, and varsity volleyball team. She's a member of the varsity volleyball and Mu Alpha Theta for all 4 years of high school. In her junior year, she was inducted in the National Honor Society and joined the student government to help around campus and be more involved in the community. This year, she was voted secretary in NHS and the secretary of Mu Alpha Theta. She loves being part of school and supporting any club, sport, or organization that she can. You'll often find her watching football or cheering on the basketball team at her home games and even going to sit out in the cold during softball and baseball season. Outside of school, her favorite place to be is in the volleyball gym. Going into 8th grade, she made a commitment and drove to Orlando 4 days a week to play with the travel ball team Top Select. She's traveled all across the country to play at national level tournaments. Being part of Top Select is not just about volleyball. It has helped her with the Champion for Children Foundation multiple times, and it also occasionally helped. She also helps at First Harvest Community Food Bank on the weekends. This organization has treated me like family from the beginning, and she's very thankful for them. After graduating in May, she plans to attend Auburn University on the volleyball scholarship and intends on majoring in pre-med to later become a surgical nurse. She said she cannot thank her parents, coaches, teachers, and friends enough for where she is today. Thank you for Jordan. Jordan, do you want to say anything?
I would just like to thank my principal and all my teachers and my parents for all the time and effort they put in to me with volleyball and school, especially my parents and traveling all the time. And I'm very thankful for them.
Oh, awesome. Well, Jordan, I laugh. Normally I give you these things in person and I make all sorts of little jokes about how much you're just going to love this. But I have this beautiful, oh, I can't see it. That's funny. I'll have to put it. Oh, there it is. It doesn't like it. My background doesn't like it. I'll just promise you that I have this absolutely gorgeous certificate that you'll just probably put right next to your graduate degree and keep just on that wall forever for being student of the month of August or September of 2020 with your school. But the real good stuff that you probably really care about, I've got a $50 check, and that is from the tutoring center, and we'll drop that in the mail to you. I also have a $50 Amazon gift card that will be emailed to you today, and that is courtesy of the Palms of Sebring. So you've got a couple little goodies to keep, and we're very lucky to have wonderful students like you. Maybe you'll come and join our business community in the future years, and come on back to Sebring. We always love to see you. I'd also like to mention that don't forget to apply for the Sebring Chamber Alan J. Scholarship. That is something you can reach out to your guidance counselor about, and the business community and the members of the chamber all put that together. So just want to mention that too. All right.
Yes,
so thank you to Jordan.
thank you for doing that.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so we have, go ahead and move on. I've got a couple of announcements that are here. So there's a few things that are going on in the community. And one of those that I want to mention specifically is that, of course, you know that the governor has moved to phase 3. And basically what that means is there are a number of restrictions that now have been lifted, and there aren't nearly as many restrictions that are left kind of on the table these days. So the chamber has been kind of waiting to see how that plays out with things and how that will affect our events within the chamber. So our board of directors found it prudent to go ahead and move forward in November with an in-person event for our luncheon. Now, that's not to say it will be 100% normal. I say normal because who knows what normal is anymore. But we will have some additional restrictions that will be in order to keep things on an even keel, to make sure that we're reducing as much risk as possible for everyone that is involved.
Hi,
So,
my name is
let's
Kristen,
see if I can.
and I'm currently the wellness manager
Let me turn this
over
down.
at Family Extended Care.
Let me
Uh-huh.
go ahead and
Hold on just a minute. I'm sorry. I'm on a Zoom call. I'm just going to turn that down.
let me see if I can mute everybody.
Looking for other opportunities to see kind of what's out there.
All right, there we go. That might fix it. Okay, sorry guys. The joy of technology, right? So we do have our next luncheon that will be in person November 12th. Center State Bank will be our sponsor, and we have a number of restrictions, like I said, that we'll be doing. So I'm going to send out a message to everybody in our Friday email and through email, so you'll all be aware of what those restrictions and how we're handling those things. But we're taking it very seriously, whether that be your safety, the safety of our staff, the safety of you, the safety of Island View staff, all into account. So just wanted to let you guys know about that. I'm pretty excited to see you in person, but we got to do it the right way. That way we can keep doing it. So that's what we'll be doing. I also want to mention a couple of other things that are going on. If you have not heard yet, there's something called GFNY that is coming to Sebring October 24th and 25th. GFNY stands for Grand Fondo New York. That is an international cycling event that will be here in a couple of weekends. And they have over 700 cyclists from all over the world that will be here. They are seeking volunteers to make sure that that event runs smoothly and professionally. And they are actually willing to pay nonprofit organizations per shift that are filled. So if your nonprofit is looking to pick up a couple extra dollars, contact me so we can get you on the list to either work that event or to coordinate volunteers on behalf of your nonprofit. To help make sure that that event is well staffed. The event is October 24th through the 25th, and it is in downtown Sebring, is where most of the positions are located. Again, just reach out to me. In regards to the CARES Act, the CARES Act should be reopening relatively soon. That will be for businesses and for individual grants that will range from $1,500 to $10,000, depending on if you're an individual business, size of business, et cetera. The chamber is what they call a technical partner. So we're helping individuals and businesses fill out those applications, mostly businesses, to do that. We will let you know when that reopens, and hopefully that will be very soon. And finally, we are rolling out our sales for our 2021 Area Guide and Relocation magazine. So you'll see some information coming out about that via email very soon. Ads for that start as low as $250, and that has a shelf life of a full 1 year. So it's a pretty good investment. That is our key marketing item that we give out when people are visiting our Welcome Center. So that way you'll have your business's name in front of as many people, particularly ones that are new to the area, which are found to be, more likely to go with recommendations of their chamber, 5 times more likely to go with a recommendation of their chamber if they're new to the area. So we just wanted to let you know that those will be coming out very, very soon, and just check your email for information about our Area Guide and Relocation magazine. The great part about that is the way that we have done this magazine now, all proceeds for that go directly to the chamber. It's written by the chamber. We have it designed through a graphic designer. So basically it's really is an in-house project where your funds actually go directly to the chamber when you do advertise in that magazine. So, blah, 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 blah. Ugh, hold on, I need a sip. Give me a second. I'm a motor mouth today. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on with our program today. Again, as I mentioned, we have AdventHealth Sebring as our sponsor and presenter today. I'd like to go ahead and introduce Nancy Christensen. She serves as the Vice President of AdventHealth Medical Group in the Heartland, which consists of 27 medical practices in 3 counties. Her team consists of nearly 60 remarkable providers, plus 200 compassionate clinicians, and together with the extended healing of Ministry of Christ to more than 200,000 patients per year. Nancy began her career with AdventHealth as a registration clerk in the Lake Placid Medical Center in 1983. After receiving her nursing degree and working 10 years in the private section, she returned to AdventHealth. She has been in the healthcare system for more than 23 years. When not working on her MBA, Nancy spends free time with her husband in their garden and playing with their fur babies. During the pandemic, Nancy has served as a consultant for COVID safety precautions for Highlands County Sheriff's Office, Highlands County School Board, the Board of County Commissioners, South Florida State College, and more. She will be sharing her expertise with you today so you can apply best practices in your business. So today, I'll ask that while the video is playing, that you type any questions in the chat section on the bottom of your screen. So on the bottom of your screen, you'll see that chat button. All you need to do is type in that question, and then at the end of the presentation, Nancy is here to answer any questions that you do have. So I'll moderate those questions as we move forward. So without further ado, let me move right into our video here.
We can't hear it, Liz.
You guys can't hear it?
No.
Okay, hold on. Let me go back. I did something earlier that I think I might have forgotten to do this time.
President of the
hear
medical
it now?
group here at AdventHealth in Heartland.
Can you hear it now?
Greetings and thank you so much for taking
Yes,
some
can
time
hear it now.
with us here at AdventHealth to talk about COVID-19 and how it may impact you and your businesses. My name is Nancy Christensen, and I am the Vice President of the medical group here at AdventHealth in Heartland, and I'm also responsible for employee health. I'd like to take a few minutes of your time and talk about some of the things that we have learned through our COVID-19 journey that may be of benefit to you and your companies as well. So let me start by talking about the 3 phases of COVID-19. It's pre-symptomatic, symptomatic, and post-symptomatic phases. So let me break that apart. The pre-symptomatic phase is the 48 hours prior to symptoms starting after an exposure. The symptomatic phase is somewhere between 2 and 14 days after that exposure. We normally see symptoms at that 3 to 5 day mark. And of course, the symptoms vary depending on the individual. There's the telltale symptoms that we're all accustomed to: no smell, no taste, the lower respiratory infection, and fever. But we have seen a variety of symptoms that one would not necessarily anticipate: earaches, sinus infection or sinus congestion, sore throat, body aches, specifically lower back and legs. I've had 2 employees that felt they were having a kidney stone event, and it turned out to be COVID. So one piece of advice that I would recommend is, if you have an employee who is sharing that they don't feel well or they just don't feel right, be concerned about that and listen to your body. Don't just assume it's nothing. The post-symptomatic phase is what typically happens at the end of the virus symptoms. So it's usually about 10 days after the start of your symptoms, and you are fever-free for 24 hours without the benefit of fever-reducing medication, and you've had clinical improvement of all other symptoms. If you happen to be tested but you didn't have any symptoms at all, and you turn out positive, and you're not sure when do I return to work from that point of view, it's 10 days from the day of your testing. So I want to take a moment here and give you a disclaimer. If you have any concerns, the Department of Health is your source of truth. Please contact that department. They have an amazing epidemiologist as well as clinical leaders there that will answer a multitude of your questions. They are the experts in this space. So let's talk about those 3 phases real quickly and debrief. Pre-symptomatic, that's before your symptoms start. That's when you may have potentially been exposed to someone, and everyone has seen what that cell looks like, and it's got the pokey things around it. I sort of relate those outer parts of the cell as Velcro or stickers, and they stick to that mucous membrane, the eyes, the nose, or the mouth, and they start to replicate. 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 4, 4 becomes 8, etc. It's during that period that your body is starting to respond. The immune system wakes up and says, wait a minute, what's happening? This isn't supposed to be there. And the body will start to respond. Those symptoms that people experience happen about 48 hours after that. The fever is your body's way of trying to kill the foreign body or that virus that doesn't belong there. The increased mucous membrane, so the runny nose, the postnasal drip, the cough, those things are your body's response, but also the virus taking housing itself firmly in your immune system. So what's happening then is the viral load, which is what we call it, is getting high enough that we can get a valid response to testing. So what that means is you'll often hear people say, wait until you're symptomatic before you get tested. That's because we're looking for a specific viral load to get a reliable test result. If we test too early, we may get a false negative, which gives false security. Once those symptoms have started, we have a better chance of getting the viral response on the swab, and we do recommend nasopharyngeal swabs, but you can also be tested with what we call a NARS test. It doesn't go quite as high into the sinus cavity, and there are some saliva tests out there. But what we're looking for is 200 to 250 viruses on that swab to get a good, reliable test. That's why you'll also be tested usually in both sides of the sinus cavity, again, to give us a better opportunity to get a most reliable response. So that pre-symptomatic phase, when your body is fighting with that virus, is still a period of time when you are contagious. And that's one of the reasons this virus spreads so quickly and so easily, is people don't realize that they've even been exposed. But their body is shedding the virus. So that's one of the things that we often encourage people to wear those masks and wear eye protection. So the masks serve two purposes. There is the source containment. So if I happen to be infected with COVID-19 and I'm wearing my mask, that I'm containing that infection through my speech and my respiratory process. And then, of course, there is the protection on the other person's side, which means they're protecting themselves from whatever that source person may be projecting. So because this virus can go through mucous membrane, eye protection is also encouraged when you're around someone who may be symptomatic or infectious and not symptomatic yet. Okay, so when you become symptomatic, that's typically when you're going to be tested. And there's multitudes of tests as well. So there's your typical testing that can be done through a reference laboratory, LabCorp, Quest, AdventHealth, CentraCares, Prompt Care. And then, of course, there's rapid testing. And some people are saying rapid testing is not as accurate as some of these others. What we're looking for often is what we call PCR testing. It is very accurate, and it can be done either from the reference lab perspective, which is usually 3 to 5 days for a result, and even rapid testing that can be within 30 minutes of testing. Those tests are going to give us the opportunity to tell you quickly if you're infected at that moment. And we're going to unpack that in just a moment, because that's going to talk about when can my employee return to work, how long do they need to be out. And of course, the post-symptomatic phase, as we've already discussed, is when you have improved enough after being infected that you can return to normal activities and return to work safely for your coworkers. Okay, moving on to the next area of focus is you have an exposure. What are those next steps? So let's talk about what a high-risk exposure is. You're going to hear the terms close and prolonged exposure. What that means is close is within 6 feet of another person. Prolonged is for greater than 15 minutes, and it doesn't have to be consecutive. It could be 3 5-minute episodes with a person that is either known to be COVID-19 positive or suspected for being positive with the virus. So we talked a little bit about the personal protection of a mask or eye protection, and we've talked about quarantine. So in the general public, quarantine is a minimum of 14 days. And that quarantine starts when your exposure ends. So let's talk about that for a moment. Let's say that a spouse is positive and your employee is caring for that spouse. They're unwell, so they may need to be at their side, feeding them or caring for them. Perhaps it's a small child, and they need to take care of that person before they can isolate themselves. At least at the hospital, we tell them, family first, take care of your family, and then we'll take care of your quarantine. So they may have to be with that person for the full 14 days of quarantine, or maybe just 7 days or a few days until a family member can help them out. But when that employee can say to you, I am fully able to separate from the infected person. I am able to take my toiletries out of the bathroom. I've taken my clothes out of a shared bedroom, and we've separated. We've disinfected the high-touch areas. When you say I've done that, then we start that day 1 of quarantine, and that goes for 14 days. A lot of people will then want to go and be tested. So my spouse is positive, I'm in quarantine, they are healing, but I think maybe I'm starting to get a symptom. I'm going to go be tested. My test results come back negative. That doesn't end the quarantine. The quarantine doesn't end for the full 14 days despite the negative test, somewhere in the middle, because it might take an immune system longer than 7 days or whatever that period of time was before you had your test done. So you could still develop the virus and a viral load that would show up on a reliable test. So that is probably one of the most important components of the process, is understanding how long the quarantine is, when the quarantine starts, and what ends the quarantine. And it is not a negative test. Also, most recently, the Center for Disease Control, or the CDC, put out a clarification on September 18th. And at that time, they suggested that we test even high-risk exposures. Historically, what they have been saying is if you haven't developed symptoms, don't be tested. Wait for symptoms. What we have heard since is, with the clarification, because we have ample testing and capabilities to test, that it is wise to test even high-risk exposure personnel that have no symptoms. We are suggesting, however, wait that 4 to 5 days to be tested, because that does give your body, your immune system, a chance to respond to that potential exposure. Again, a negative test does not eliminate the quarantine. It's just a point of information at that point in time. We've talked a little bit about the reference labs and rapid tests. I will take a moment to tell you that there is more and more capability now for rapid testing. Here at AdventHealth, our outpatient locations, our primary care offices, and prompt cares have ordered their testing equipment and will soon be able to do rapid testing at the time of the collection. We often send our test results to the hospital because they can do rapid tests. It takes about 2.5 hours. And we're doing that now for our own employees as well as our first responders and our emergency personnel. It's important to keep our critical infrastructure functional so that we're out there caring for others. And so that has been an honor for us to care for our community in that way. And we look forward to offering rapid testing to everyone in the very near future. Let's talk a little bit about a secondary exposure. We often get questions that say, and I'm going to use school as an example now that school is open, and we're so happy to hear that. And thank you to our teachers and our school personnel for everything they're doing for our community and our children. We are blessed to have such an amazing school board that has spent a lot of time and energy to put a safe process in place. However, we are getting kids that are exposed to someone in the school that may be positive. So we have what we call the source, that's the person that is infected, and then our child has been around that person, but they have no symptoms, and they come home, and your employee says, I don't know what to do. My child has been around a positive person at school. Our process at the hospital is this. We call that once removed. So if your child does not have signs or symptoms, we allow the parent to continue working. Once that child, or if that child, develops signs or symptoms, we then consider that employee a person under investigation, and we have them start their quarantine, and we encourage them to get their child tested. So that can be a little confusing, and we certainly understand that. We will tell you err on the side of being conservative. However, as it stands today, the once removed model for us is we encourage that employee to do the following. Shower and wash your hair prior to coming to work. Again, help eliminate if there is any shedding to wash that off. Follow universal masking. That means you wear a mask 100% of the time unless you are taking a hydration or nutritional break. And obviously you have to remove your mask for that. At that time, maintain your social distance. That is what is key to helping reduce the spread of the virus. Maintain your minimum of 6 feet and try to minimize how much close contact you have. So back to that close and prolonged exposure. If you can stay greater than 6 feet away and limit the time you're spending in that close proximity, that will help reduce your exposure. And hand hygiene. Wash your hands frequently. You can look up on the CDC website or almost anywhere online what the proper technique is for hand washing and hand hygiene. It can be soap and water. It can also be your alcohol-based product, but that is crucial. And that gives you very specific instructions on how to wash your hands properly and making sure that you're covering all those areas for those high-touch areas. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. So, we've covered a lot of this, but let's reiterate. What happens if you're positive with COVID-19? We strongly encourage you to seek medical attention. Get yourself evaluated and let us help monitor your signs and symptoms and provide some treatment for those symptoms. There is no cure for COVID. However, we can help make you feel better with the symptoms, the fever, the body aches, the cough, the sinus congestion. We can give you things to help you feel better. And we can monitor closely for secondary infections. The one that is most concerning for us at this time is pneumonia. So yes, there's a secondary infection to the lower lung disease. However, we set ourselves up a bit. So you're on quarantine, you're stuck in a bedroom, you're laying in bed with your remote control, and you feel pretty crummy. So a lot of times when you breathe deeply, it will cause you to cough, and that doesn't feel well. It irritates the throat. So people will breathe shallowly to help reduce the trigger of the cough. Those are the things we don't want you to do. So to help minimize the setting of pneumonia in those lower lungs is breathe deeply. Breathe in as deeply as you can and exhale as completely as possible until your lungs are completely empty. If it causes you to cough, hold your stomach for the muscle soreness, and that also helps generate the movement in the lung, which will help reduce your chances of infection of pneumonia. If you start to feel sick, meaning your fever is getting high and not controlled with medications, if you're having difficulty breathing, if you just feel sick, come and get care, be it at your emergency department, your primary care physician, your pulmonologist, or prompt care. Seek attention. Let us evaluate you. Let us see what your O2 saturation rate is. Let us potentially get a chest x-ray so we can put early treatment in place. And quarantine. Minimize your exposure to others. Social distance. Maintain your environmental maintenance. Cleaning your high-touch areas. Covering your mouth when you cough. Avoiding contact with anything that others are going to be touching without being able to disinfect that, making sure others that are caring for you are using their personal protective equipment, gloves perhaps, when they're moving things around. I encourage you, if you can, step outside if you can do so safely and get fresh air for those deep breathing and get some sunlight. Sit in front of a window and get some fresh air. That will help. Also with some emotional support. 14 days or a minimum of 10 if you're positive is a long time to be alone. You miss your family members, you miss your normal activity, and hopefully you're one of those that really doesn't get that sick and is bored out of your mind. We hope that for those that actually get positive test results, because we want you to feel well, of course. But sitting around for 10 to 14 days gets to be a bit much. And then you're tempted to break your quarantine. And that's what we don't want to have happen. So we encourage family members, have FaceTime conversations with you. Stand outside the window and have a conversation. When they do come in to bring your food, we encourage them. Set it down, knock on the door, then the sick person can retrieve it if they're feeling well enough to do so. Empty the trash in your quarantine space frequently. Put it in a plastic bag and tie it off. Have the person that's going to receive that wrap the other bag around their hands, open the bag, it drops in, they seal it and take it outside immediately. Soak your toothbrush in hydrogen peroxide after brushing your teeth. That will help reduce the structure of the cell to weaken it. Wash your pillowcase daily, frequently, because that will also help minimize the exposure to the shedded virus as you're in your recovery period. And then you're ready to get back to work. So there's two processes that are followed. There's the test-based return to work and the symptoms-based return to work. Test-based is when you have the test repeated for a negative result. The CDC is no longer recommending test-based return. This is because the COVID virus particles may remain in the respiratory system for a period of time, up to 3 months, after the infectious period has ended, that post-symptomatic phase. So you may test and be positive for an extended period of time. We witnessed this ourselves with our own employees that were on quarantine early in this process, March and April. What we recognized is they were fine. They had 0 symptoms, but they were still showing positive. After the CDC was able to get more data, more information, more evidence-based guidance, they updated their recommendations to move to a systems-based return to work. And what they actually say is after the 3 criteria we talked about earlier today, minimum of 7 days from the start of your symptoms, no fever for 24 hours without the benefit of fever-reducing medication, and clinical improvement of all other symptoms. Once they've reached that status, what the CDC states, and I quote, is chance of transmission is approaching 0 at that point. So at that point, we consider that employee safe to return to work. With that said, some people are getting the secondary infections, the pneumonias that I've talked about, or an exacerbation of their asthma. They may not be infectious with COVID any longer, but they're still unwell from the secondary infections or exacerbations of a chronic illness. So we need to be very careful about when that employee should be returning. They could be weak from a long period of quarantine, or just not feeling well yet from what we call an alternative diagnosis. So those are things that they're going to want to work with their treating physician, their primary care specialist, and talk about when can I safely return to work. So it's 2 things you're looking at. When am I no longer infectious? When am I safe for my coworkers and family? But when is it safe for me to return? Because you don't want to have a further exacerbation of that alternative diagnosis. Finally, I want to talk about emotional support. We talked about the boredom, the loneliness, the isolation. But there's also a bit of a stigma, unfortunately, that goes with being COVID positive. And people are so worried about potentially getting others sick. Give that emotional support. Encourage them to reach out. Encourage them to remain part of your organization. Touch base with them. Stay connected. I can tell you that my personal family has experienced a positive family member, and they were lonely. So we brought food by, and we would talk from the car in the driveway and stay connected. It means a lot, and it'll mean a lot to you that you are the person that's able to care for your loved one and help us extend our healing ministry. So that concludes my summary for you. I want to leave you with some contact information for questions. So we have an employee health hotline number that is monitored 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's 863-402-3410. And our team would be more than happy to help answer any of your questions. And they could range from anything from, is this a symptom? Should I be tested? Should I talk to my primary care provider? What do I do if? We're happy to unpack that with you and give some suggestions that we would do here at the hospital. Again, my name is Nancy Christensen, and I've given you my cell phone number. I'm also available at any time to help answer your questions. And finally, your health department is your source of truth, and they are experts in this space. Stay well, stay healthy, and thank you so much for your time today.
All right, everyone. Okay, so let's see if we've got a couple of questions. It looks like, Nancy, are you here with us? You might have to unmute yourself to speak.
Yes, I am here. Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, so I did get a question typed over to me from Linda Udall. She said, is there an alternative COVID-19 test for those who have had previous sinus surgery?
So I have heard about other tests that are available that would avoid having to use a nasopharyngeal or a swab in the sinus or the nose area. I don't have a lot of information about them. However, probably the NARES test which goes just barely into the nose, would probably be safe. But I would encourage her to reach out to her whoever did her sinus surgery, or an ENT or primary care provider for guidance. There was a saliva test, but they're not using that very frequently any longer. I don't know of anyone locally that is doing it.
Very good. All right. Well, if you guys have any additional questions, just go ahead. I think that was very thorough, and we sure do appreciate that presentation. I think it likely answered quite a few questions for individuals who, in their business are curious about how to handle some of these things. So thank you, Nancy. If anybody has questions, just on the bottom of your screen, hit the chat button, and we're really happy to do that. Okay, real quick, we've got about 10 minutes to knock everything out, so we'll have to be fast with everybody. If you have any announcements from your organization that you'd like to mention, just go ahead to the bottom, hit the chat button, type in that you'd like to make an announcement, and we will call each of you to make those announcements. Please, 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 extra important today so we can remain on time. Keep that to no longer than 1 minute. So Linda, go right ahead from Toastmasters.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I just want to remind you that Toastmasters is alive and well. We are following all of the restrictions. We're doing all of our meetings online the first and third Tuesday of every month. Please call me at 214-4288, and I will be glad to send you the link to attend one of our virtual meetings.
Wonderful. Thank you, Linda. So Jamie, over at the South Florida State College Foundation, what do you have going on?
Hey everyone, I think Anastasia is going to talk about the showcase, but I just want to share that on Monday, October 12th, the Jacaranda restaurant is opening back up. So we are very excited about that. Oktoberfest, when our culinary students actually make all that glorious food, that is going to be taking place very soon also at the end of this month. And we are doing takeout. So if you are interested in any of that, options open. But just remember the Hotel Jacaranda, because we are excited that we are opening back up. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right, Anastasia, do you have something as well?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, we got you.
Great. Yes, so we are excited. I'm excited the Jacaranda restaurant is opening back up. But I'm just going to share with you all, we are having our fundraiser, our major fall fundraiser, which is our Foundation Legacy Showcase. And it's going to have the Howl at the Moon dueling piano. So it's a really fun event. And we are very fortunate that we have the facility, the Alan J. Wildstein Center for Performing Arts, that is going to allow us to have plenty of space to allow for social distancing. So we are actually going from a theater that seats about 1,400 to down to 400 would be our total max capacity. So very fortunate to have that. It starts at 5 o'clock on October 24th with a social. There'll be beer and wine by 18 East, and then the depot is doing our catering. And then at 7 o'clock, the concert kicks off, and all the proceeds, whether your ticket sales or your tips to hear your favorite song, actually come back to the foundation and support the college. So I'll go ahead and drop the link for the event in the chat box, and we hope you guys come out and support us. We're excited to get out and see everyone, of course, in a safe way. We will have temperature checks and masks, and again, that social distancing that AdventHealth actually walked through with our arts program to make sure we were in compliance. So thank you.
Wonderful. All right. So Anna Marie Feeney, do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and you can make your announcement?
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm just going to do this really quick. November 11th is Veterans Day, and County Veterans Council's Veterans Day Parade is on. It's going to be on Main Street in Avon Park. Directly after that, there will be a ceremony, and directly after that, the You Served Us, We Serve You Veterans Day food service, where we feed the veterans for free, is going to be on. As it stands now, we're going to be preparing the clamshell takeout so the veterans can take it with them. But all Veterans Day festivities are on, and they're going to be on Main Street in Avon Park.
Wonderful. We'll make sure we get all that information on our community calendar too, so we can spread the word for you by all means.
And one more quick thing. We're looking for locations for our toy drive boxes. So if you want to have a toy drive box in your location, please get a hold of me.
Bring one by the chamber. We'd be happy to help you, Anne Marie.
Thank you.
All right. Very good. Okay. And then we have Tim Wirt over at Comcast. Tim, go right ahead.
Yeah, Liz, number one, I would love to borrow your Harry Potter cloak, invisible cloak. You were using that earlier. I could hide from the kids and sneak out to go fishing. So thank you. Sure. It feels good to be back at the chamber, Liz, and everyone. Happy Friday, Junior. Just letting everyone know that the business, you can actually get a free technology review. We have discounts to chamber members for businesses. And also, please know that we have direct fiber to the premise. That's nothing new with Comcast. I've been with Comcast over 10 years, but been selling direct fiber to companies for about 6 months or plus. And we'd love to better understand your businesses by virtue of a meeting, Teams or Zoom, and here to help for sure. I'll type in my contact information if that's okay.
Very good. I can personally attest to Tim has been extremely helpful with my husband's business and our internet and phone needs. And it's more than just talking to just some person. He really does find the right solutions for what you need. And that when it comes to technology and you have no clue, that's really nice. So thank you, Tim. Very good. Anybody else? I don't see any other announcements that we have. If you do, just go ahead and type it in there, but we'll go ahead to make sure we get you guys out of here on time. I have a couple of drawings and I got a couple of really good ones. So the first item that we have, and what I do ahead of time, everybody that registered for the event, I jot your name down and put it in the bowl ahead of time. You probably can't see. Yeah, it doesn't like my invisible cloak, but there's my bowl with all your names in it. So everybody who registered for the event, I already got you in there. And we've got a couple things. So the first item is we have a sweet treat that is going to be mailed to you direct from Madi over at Right Card, Right Time. And that goes to Shannon Sapp at Legacy Financial. Make a note here. All right, and that'll get mailed direct to her. The next item we have is a bottle of rosé, and that is courtesy of the Heartland Talk of the Town Toastmasters. And that goes to Miss Jamie Bateman over at South Florida State College Foundation. And I should mention, we can drop these off, or you can pick up from the chamber office, whichever is most convenient. We'll reach out to you just after the luncheon today. So that is the rosé. Very good. So the next item that we have is a $50 Don Jose restaurant gift card. And that is very courteously given to us by Duke Energy, Nancy over at Duke Energy. And that goes to Tiffany Bender over at AdventHealth Sebring. You're going to have some margaritas and chips and salsa on Duke Energy. And the next two items that we have, I'll go ahead and pull two. These are from AdventHealth, and we've got two gift baskets. I would hold them up, but I don't know how well this is going to work out. But they are cooler bags that have all sorts of really awesome items, but they also have a $25 Ruby Tuesday gift card attached to those. And the first one goes to Craig over at CS Waterworks. And, oh geez, this is funny. The next one goes to Nancy Christensen over at AdventHealth. So I don't know if she's going to want me to do that. Nancy, you probably want me to pull another one, right?
Please draw for someone else. Thank you, though.
It works that way every single time. Okay, so that goes to Ray Cook over at New Concepts by Visions. All right, so that is all of our drawings that we have for today. I just want to say thank you to AdventHealth for presenting today. I think the information was very, very helpful to quite a few of us to understand everything a little bit better. There's so much information thrown at us from 1,000 different directions these days, and it's nice to have an organization that we know and trust and recognize to give us that information so we can feel a little bit better about things. So, oh, I see over here that we've got some information that just popped up in the chat in regards to the upcoming Pink on Parade event that AdventHealth is putting on. So make sure you check that out too. As always, if you guys have any questions about anything that was discussed today or need to get connected with someone who spoke, You guys know where to find me, and I'll make sure I get you connected with the right people for the right information. So that is about it for us today. Thank you so much for being with us today, as always, taking time out of your busy schedule. And as promised, we have you out of here by 1 o'clock. I hope you have a fantastic day and stay safe out there, all right? Take care.